welcome back to the channel. My name is Jaco, this is my workshop, and this link that you've just clicked enables you to get some of the knowledge that we've learned over the years. You know the story. Post videos every week, Damaya.
Every Sunday.
This particular video we're going to be dealing with a most basic set of bezel earrings. I happen to have a set that came into the workshop. It's red gold, 9 carat, and I've got some amethysts that are going into it. And I thought, hey, we like to show off the big diamond rings. Of course, we're not going to stop doing that, but some of these specific type of settings that are very important for people looking at getting into the trade, I'm going to show you step by step what we've done. That's a very simple thing to do, and if you're just starting out and you go, ooh, I don't know if I can do it, you can do it.
We believe in you.
We do believe in you. Let's run through the process. Everything that you do is always about the stones. These are quite deep. I mean, amethysts are usually cut quite deep for bringing out the color. So we had to do quite a deep setting to incorporate the stone's height, as well as a little bit extra that you can work off, because you obviously have to work this thing off. Take 7, you plus it by 9, you divide that by 2. 8 millimeters is your round diameter that you're going to work off. You're going to imagine an oval stone being a round stone of 8 millimeters. Then you're going to take the thickness of the metal and you're going to plus it. Now I only worked on about 0.9, but you could work on 1 millimeter if you really want to go 0.9 or 1.1. I'm not going to stop you. I, on this particular occasion, worked on 0.9.
Were you like living life on the edge?
Yes. So 8 plus 0.9 is 8.9. 8.9 times pi gives you the length. Roll that out, cut. And that will give you a general idea. Now you might find that when you bend it closed that you're not quite there, it's slightly too big or whatever, but that's a good starting point. If you find that you're slightly too big, cut a little bit out, bring it back together. It's just a good starting point. You're going to be above it to bring it smaller. I've used a hard solder to do my very first solder. This is a good practice in goldsmithing. When you're going to be doing something, start with a hard solder, because the next thing you want to solder, which is going to be the bar that holds the pin, is going to be a medium solder, and the very last thing, which is the pin itself, you can go with an easy solder. If you don't do this and you go from easy to easy to easy, by the time you put the bar on, you might open up the solder joints, because essentially it's the same melting point. I'm using an oval triplet. Now these are fun.
Where is it?
It's in my drawer.
Let's show people.
Okay, it's a little thing. It's a little tiny little thing, but it's perfect for settings, and it's oval. I mean, you might say like, hang on, I don't have an oval triplet, and that's fine as well. You could use these to squash a round setting. I'm not using a doming punch because that's going to give me an angle. And in this particular thing, I've got quite a high wall, so I don't want the angle to be too accentuated. Once I've created my 2 oval settings, obviously I've hammered it slightly to get it into shape, and I want to get rid of this damage that I have on the outside. So I'm working it off with a very fine needle file, and then after that with a bit of sandpaper. The top and the bottom as well, they're basically pre-polished condition. Plain, straightforward oval or round or triangle or whatever you're making as a bezel won't be an earring unless it has a pin on the back. But the pin can't solder to the sky.
We're not God.
We're not God.
We have to conform to the laws of physics.
Unfortunately, we have to. Now, a lot of people will just take the back of that tube and solder it to the top, and you could do that. That's fine, they'll work, but it leaves the earring lying quite low on the ear. So I want to bring that middle crossbar to as close to the middle as I possibly can. But in this case, because my stones are quite deep and that belly of the stone's coming almost right down to the bottom, I didn't want it to interfere with the bar, so I moved the bar slightly up. I do this by placing the 2 ovals on top of the strip of the bar that I'm looking to use. Once I've placed them and I'm looking at them from the top, and I'm quite happy with the ovals, how they're sitting and where the bar's running through them, that makes sense to my eyes, I take a little bit of that super glue and I just tack it on the outsides of the ovals to seat the ovals. I need that seating so that I can take a really sharpened burr that I've sharpened to a really fine point, and on the inside scrape the angle of the actual oval. You've made your little line which represents the inside. You're going to cut slightly outside that line so that when you're done working it off, that you end up exactly on that line. I can take that little section that's been perfectly fitted and move it up into position and solder and solder. I take the two parts that have been soldered and I bring them back together, back to back like this, and I'm looking from the one side and from the other side. If I see any inconsistency, and I'm talking about the bars being slightly off this way or that way, I know exactly which side to go for to give it a little bit of a file on the top and a little bit of file at the bottom, so to make sure that those two inconsistencies become perfect. If you work in like that, then you've got a perfect mirror of the other one, which means that if you take them apart, both of the bars will sit in the same height and both of them will be exactly the same straightness. I've got my little ovals, they've been cleaned up, they were pre-polished. I keep putting them back into the acid to make sure that the metal that I'm working with is clean. I've done my soldering back into the acid, and once again I'm working it off. So I know I've got the right height for the stones, I know I've got the right size for the stones to go in from the top. I've got my little bars at the bottom, they've been balanced out to be absolutely perfect. I now prepare the metal to put the pin in. The pin needs to be in the middle. Take a divider from the one side on the edge, on the other side of the edge, to determine your middle mark. From there onwards, I use a teeny 0.5 millimeters. I mean, you can't even see that. Yeah. You can question the fact that there's even a little ball on top of that phrase.
Just there to
and we just drop it in to make sure that when you're putting a drill down, that the drill doesn't run from side to side. It has a guided point. And I go from a very small 0.7 millimeter drill, and I enlarge it to a 0.9 millimeter drill. Why? Because the pin I'm going to be putting in is 0.9, and now I'm creating the wire. And from here onwards, I flatten it slightly, squeeze it through the actual holes, and solder it from the opposite side. Why from the opposite side? Because if I draw the solder down towards the back, I'll have minimal solder marks on the bottom here, trying to keep the outside as clean as possible. So from the inside of the earring, I add my easy solder in this case and heat it up so that it draws it through to the back. By the time I see it soldered, I stop, and I can always work out that little excess in the inside because nobody's going to see that. It's going to be nice and neat on the outside. Now the pins are done. It's on to the magnetic tumbler and beyond. It will polish up the inside, it will polish up the outside, not to a final polish, but it will make it look so much better for when I'm placing the stones and I'm seating the stones in there. And while that's in the actual tumbler for an hour or so, you can turn back to the bench and do 3 or 4 other small jobs. But the pins, obviously I've left them long. Why did I leave them long? Because before they go into the magnetic tumbler, my head said to me, if you have long pins, you're going to get more resistance to the magnetic tumbler. 10 millimeters is what I use in the workshop. I turn my cutters to cut the cleanest, flattest point, about 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters inwards. Again, I turn my cutters and I turn to create a little groove for the catch. And then I just create a bit of a rounding on the top, not sharp, just a bit so that it can pierce through the ear. Set the stones, clean up the bezel. Again,
bang, we've got to let them go.
Got to let them go.
See you later, guys. Good luck out there.
Thank you for watching the video as per usual. You guys are so kind with all the comments. I love hearing from you. Thanks to all the steering that we're getting from people saying, could you do something like this? Can you do something like this? We love it. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the video, bell icon to help us go forward and grow the channel so we can share more of the love. We know they're high enough to get the stones in there, and we now need to put meow.
Meow.
Meow. Cat people.